Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this webinar hosted by European Cities Marketing and proudly delivered by TOPOSOPHY, placemaking and marketing agency. I'd like to start this afternoon by passing straight to the President of European Cities Marketing, Petra Stusek, who is in Ljubljana. Petra, welcome.
Thank you, Peter, and hi, dear friends, dear colleagues. Good afternoon from Ljubljana, from my hometown. And thank you so much for your participation in today's ECM webinar. Today, we are happy to have our members with us, but also wider audience. So we proudly welcome all tourist boards, CVBs, DMMOs from around Europe and beyond, as well as press and other industry representatives. Welcome to all of you. We are really pleased to continue the series of initiatives to keep on sharing our vast experience, to seek inspiration, to support each other. Sharing is the core of us, of ECM, and we cannot highlight enough that, that we have the firm belief that sharing inspiration, insights, and experiences will be the key to pull through this crisis together. This webinar is a part of a bigger ECM initiative called A New Tomorrow, with which we are empowering the conversations and supporting the whole tourism and meetings industry. ECM is actually the only association in Europe gathering city destinations under one roof, whether they are destination marketing organizations, destination management and marketing organizations, tourist offices, convention bureaus, city marketing organizations, regional organizations, or national tourist offices or convention bureaus. It is imperative for us, for ECM, to enable members to align their own strategies, agenda, with whatever demands, challenges, and opportunities the future is bringing us. So, insights, analysis, long panel articles, surveys, collaborative dashboards, discussion groups. ECM is providing a unique and essential source of information. Just last week, we published in partnership with TOPOSOPHY a relevant and important tool, the DMMO Covid-19 Continuity Checklist, an ECM guide for sustainable recovery. This guide is intended to help DMMOs taking the right decisions and to learn from experiences of others. It spans an extensive period precisely because the process of recovery is expected to be long, uneven, and unpredictable. More than exchanging knowledge and new practices, this report gives us an overall perspective, recovery milestones, visions, and approaches, and of course, a precious continuity checklist for all of us DMMOs. This tool will be considerable support for DMMOs in this unprecedented time to face the new challenges. And one thing this crisis is teaching us about is to believe in perspective and in resilience. In this webinar today, we will discuss this guide more in depth, and you can ask any questions you may have. The purpose is to learn more and to discuss the three stages of sustainable recovery: the response, the recovery itself, and the resilience, because we are, the ECM members are resilient. We have adopted just last summer our new ECM strategy called Tomorrow Today, and it is our pledge to members to be forward-looking and to help preparing today for what will come tomorrow. And even though it might be difficult, we intend to stay positive and to work hard towards a new tomorrow, which requires from us to rebuild, reshape, and reimagine tourism and the role of responsibilities of the DMMOs. So on behalf of ECM, I would truly like to thank TOPOSOPHY for producing this checklist. They have made a vital contribution towards guiding DMMOs in supporting local entrepreneurs, political decision makers, visitors, and of course, our whole local communities. The checklist will help you or us navigate these uncertain times or through these uncertain times and put our destinations on the path to sustainable recovery. Thank you again, everyone gathered today. Thank you to TOPOSOPHY for supporting us. And I now leave the floor to Manolis Psaros for a few welcoming words from TOPOSOPHY. Stay healthy and stay brave. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much, Petra. Thank you very much, first of all, for bringing all these positive energy. It is much needed in these challenging times, and also for your good words. I would also like to thank European Cities Marketing for the excellent collaboration we had, not only for this piece of work, but throughout the years, starting back in 2017, working on the sharing economy impact on the destination sector, and then on the future of city marketing and the managing tourism growth toolkit later on. Before passing the word to Peter Jordan for taking you through these detailed analysis of this checklist, I'd like to share a few words about the aims and the objectives we had for the Destination Management and Marketing Continuity Checklist. These aims to be a comprehensive guide for all destinations across the world for the next 18 to 24 months, aiming mainly to help them on the operational procedures. We wanted this piece of work to be, first of all, pragmatic, by taking in consideration all latest studies, all latest estimations by financial major institutions, and the World Health Organization guidelines, government measures, and travel restrictions in place all over the world. We also wanted these to be well balanced, avoiding to be not too optimistic by embracing the wishful thinking many of us have, but also not too pessimistic and dramatic about how things will evolve in the upcoming period. Our other objective was for this guide to be DMO specific by including 99 actions in 6 different action areas that pretty much apply in the vast majority of destination management and marketing organizations across the world. And last but not least, we wanted this guide to serve multiple purposes. By using a checklist format, this guide will help you to track your progress in all these 6 areas and 99 actions for the next 18 to 24 months. And at the same time, it will work as an advocacy tool for your city authorities and members to justify your progress and what you've been doing during the COVID-19 crisis and also for the period to follow. So having said that, I really hope that you'll find these guides very useful to your operations. And I'd like now to pass the word to Peter Jordan to take you through a detailed analysis and presentation of the guide. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Manolis. Much appreciated. So then, good afternoon, everybody, again. And just to let you know then how this afternoon is going to work. I'm going to make a presentation, a more in-depth presentation of this checklist that both Petra and Manolis have there just been referring to. But before I do that, just want to give you a couple of housekeeping notes before we get started. First of all, we'll keep all of the participants on mute, but you're welcome to use the chat function, which is at the bottom of the screen. Many of us are becoming very familiar with Zoom now. So yeah, we'll be collecting questions and we'll do our best to answer all of them. And if we can't give you an answer during this webinar, then of course we'll do our best to get an answer to you after the webinar as well. We have then we'll make sure that that chat function is working for you. We also then want to know that this webinar will be recorded and it will be available to you through European Cities Marketing and also our own newsletter, which will be going out very soon. So my name is Peter Jordan. I'm head of strategy with TOPOSOPHY, and I'm based here in Amsterdam. I would love to show you a beautiful view outside. I have our office is very close to Schiphol Airport, but as you can imagine, there's not very much happening there at the moment. I'm also delighted to be joined this afternoon by good friends and colleagues. Also from, we have Geert Udo from Amsterdam. We have Kai Dietrichs, who will be replacing Michael Ochemba from Hamburg Marketing. Very pleased to have Kai with us this afternoon. And Mateo Asensio in Barcelona. And these 3 individuals with a huge amount of experience of helping to navigate this crisis in their cities will be giving presentations after mine to talk about in some of the ways in which they have been supporting their destinations in practical terms. And as you'll see, some of the work of the checklist in practice. So, as we mentioned, this document is already online. You can find it and you can explore it in further detail. My job this afternoon is just to give you a bit of an overview and help you understand how to navigate the report. So I guess you're wondering then what is inside. We cover various things, and as Manuel has said, we want to be pragmatic and we want this guide to be multi-purpose. So we take quite a close look, having done quite a lot of economic analysis and balancing this with the different public health measures. We make our best analysis of how the pattern of recovery is going to look, as well as the key milestones there. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit more detail shortly. We also take a look ahead into how we think destinations are going to look on the day, what we're calling the day after all of this. And we're very pleased to feature European cities that have been leading the way in their approach and giving other cities a huge amount, well, all of us a huge amount to learn from and be inspired by. We take a deep dive in this report and we look at community support. Now, DMO's engagement with local residents has always been important. It's been becoming far more important in recent years, whether that's through resident consultations, of helping them to be happy about the pace of tourism growth, but also increasingly as key constituents in the consultation period in forming a strategy is important. Now, of course, this crisis is bringing destination marketing and management organizations closer than ever before to their local communities. And in this report, we explore how that is working. And then at the end of the checklist, we have the actual checklist itself, which goes through 3 phases. And I'm going to give you an example of that this afternoon. So I talked about this, the road to recovery. And of course, we're all fascinated to know how that is going to look. This graphic, it doesn't show growth. It doesn't show an upward trend. What we've tried to do by adapting this graphic from the World Health Organization, which talks about pandemics and how they are, and the stages of a pandemic. And we look at key milestones that will be necessary in order for us to move from one phase of our response to the next. Now, of course, like the whole checklist itself, this is not an instruction book. It is a guide which, of course, local destinations can consider and adapt according to their local circumstances. And as we are already seeing around Europe, the approaches are different. And of course, different countries are at different stages of their approach to this pandemic and managing it. Of course, this is, of course, updated on a daily basis. But this graphic really shows the movement from what we're calling instability and difficult decision-making on the left to more certain decision-making and stability that comes with restrictions being lifted further over to the right. Crucially, we have to point out the middle section, the recovery section. Of course, this is a real estimate because as the different stages of the pandemic flare up and further outbreaks occur, it's possible to move back and forth in this middle section as we see restrictions lifted and then perhaps applied again. So it's something important to bear in mind. And I think at the early stages, of course, there was a lot of hope that this would be an easy progression and a smooth one. But of course, we are all learning that that's not the case. So this is our approach to showing that the recovery period will not necessarily be easy or smooth. And we hope that that is useful to all of our audience in explaining that when they have to with their stakeholders. Now, we also talk about in this report, and this was a really interesting section to put together for you all, about accelerated trends. Now, it's clear that there are some areas of life that are going to be very, very different from what we recognized last year to, of course, what we're seeing this year. Social distancing was a concept that we were probably not very familiar with, unless you were working in public health. Until, of course, and now this is, of course, becoming a new reality. So that's an area of life that will be very different. We're also looking at probably a fundamental reset of the aviation sector too, without wanting to put too much emphasis on that. It is clear, as we've seen, that airlines are clearly suffering, and that is going to clearly affect connectivity with our destinations. So that is perhaps a clear change. But in other areas, here we've identified a whole range of what we're calling accelerated trends. So these were things that were changing rapidly already and where we were seeing a lot of a lot of transformation over the last few years, and where we believe that this COVID-19 episode has really sped these up. So it's clear for all of us that COVID-19 is changing our operating environment rapidly. We also believe that that is going to apply to the process of transformation of destination marketing and management organizations too. European Cities Marketing has been supporting its members through this process now for many years. We hope that our contributions through the manifest and the toolbox, the manifest for the future of DMOs, the toolbox on tourism growth, have helped in that process too. And here we are now, as we see that, of course, we're about to see one further big leap in transformation. But we believe that this time is going to be slightly different because there's many people have, we know that there's much more scrutiny today on our goals, especially and how we're going to achieve them, especially when there's public money at stake. So this time, and just as we've seen as we've worked with clients on strategies in recent years, there's going to be a lot more scrutiny of our goals, and it's going to be a lot more important to explain what we're doing and why to much wider audiences. And there, of course, will be many, many people who are asking, okay, where are we heading? What are we looking to achieve as we start to grow again? And that is something which I think will be very important to keep in mind. And that's an area which we'll be exploring as we talk with our friend Geert in Amsterdam this afternoon. And so when we talk about these accelerated trends, we have 39 of them across 5 areas. Unfortunately, I don't have the time to go into all of them this afternoon, but these are the 5 areas which we look at. We bring together issues around placemaking and management, citizens' expectations. We say citizens because I think we move beyond visitors and residents to look in general at the people we're dealing with. We look at how the industry as a whole is likely to react to COVID-19 and some of the big accelerated changes they're likely to make, as well as some of the contextual challenges that sit behind all of this. And then we make a big summary and bring it all together and look at what this means for the purpose and the vision of destination marketing and management organizations. So I'm just going to give you one example from each of those areas. First of all, we look at, when we look at place, well, quality of life and the health of well-being of residents was always an important factor when people were considering the attractiveness of places, whether they want to live or work or study there or invest there. But we believe that now this COVID-19 outbreak has accelerated that trend hugely. And this is something which, through placemaking and marketing, there's going to be more attention paid to this than ever before. When we look at people's expectations, citizens' expectations, well, this has been really interesting to see how companies have behaved, and especially big companies that rely on volume. What consumers will expect flexibility. They got it. If you had any airline tickets booked, then we've seen, of course, how airlines have usually reacted with flexibility. But also, and this was something that was increasingly important, younger consumers in particular that were value-driven were very focused on transparency, and they wanted companies to behave with integrity and transparency. And many companies, of course, have been forced to, and I think that this is an increasingly important expectation for the future. And crucially, I don't think any of us enjoyed being treated as a number, and we know that in the end there are people sitting behind the organizations that we deal with, and we all want to be treated with a lot more humanity. And of course, after the trauma of what we've been dealing with, we also need it too. At the same time, when it comes to consumer behavior, we believe that this is going to drive digital savvy consumers who are going to be increasingly interested in getting good value from from whatever they're buying. So their hotel booking or what they're booking an experience. They'll be looking to use their loyalty points. They'll be looking to make sure that their loyalty pays for something. And they'll be searching hard to get a good bargain. Now, when we look at our purpose and vision, then, I'm just going to leap forward a couple of slides to show you that when it comes to the purpose and vision of DMMOs, ultimately it is to become the great facilitator. Now, we've seen this shift occurring for several years now to beyond the idea of management, and that we're all and DMMOs are in a position where they have all the answers, because we know that that's not the case. None of us do. But the important thing is to show that we are there to open doors and to help cities reach their wider economic goals. And for the other areas, then obviously I'll invite you to check out the report. So when we look at the continuity checklist itself, just to get you an idea of how it shapes up, as Petra mentioned at the beginning of this webinar, we look at the first area we're looking at is, of course, the response phase. And this moves through then to recovery, through to resilience in the longer term. And of course, each destination will move through these stages at their own pace. How do we organize this? Well, actually, we divide up these 99 actions across a whole range of areas. 6 broad areas that we identified are the main areas of concern for DMMOs. And that includes perhaps the familiar ones, like marketing and communications, we can see at the bottom here, research and intelligence, which has become increasingly more important in recent years, as well as obviously newer areas which are becoming far more important around placemaking, community support. We also include industry and B2B support in there as well. We also then, but we realize, of course, that the destination marketing and management organizations are going to be playing an important role, often in representing their industry and helping the industry articulate their views to government when it comes to support packages as well. So that's why we include areas such as policy making and advocacy as well. As well as looking in the middle there, you see human resources and business operations. So we understand that behind all of this, there's a huge process of internal transformation. And we've tried to give some pointers there as well that we hope will be useful. And this afternoon then, just to give you a quick example of the type of transformation that we see in this checklist and that we're putting across. In the response phase then, when it comes to community support and business support, well, many destinations have done this already, and we're very proud to have one with us this afternoon that's going to explain in more detail how this is working. Kai from Hamburg is going to be explaining this in a bit more detail, but one of the first areas that we've seen in response is to be able to give the industry a channel for voicing their concerns. Everybody has been working from home, and it's important that people are still able to meet, share ideas, and crucially get reassurance on how they can move forward. So this is why in the response phase, one of the best practices that can be done is to set up an online forum for exchanging ideas, advice, and experience, and to encourage then some proactive leadership among the local tourism industry. And then in the second phase, how does that work? Well, here we are obviously looking, our focus then is more outward looking, just in making sure that we can engage our local residents and our local public in supporting businesses and in highlighting those public health measures as well. So our job is then to relay some of that important information, help to articulate how this applies to the tourism sector in particular, because of course governments are issuing guidance for a whole range of sectors, and it's important that they hear our voice and they understand how that works. And crucially then, another area that will become increasingly important is about how we receive visitors and how comfortable local people feel about receiving visitors in the future. And then when we look at then resilience, this is now looking much more into the future. How would this work in the longer term? Well, the idea is that we can capture the audience that we've built up in the previous 2 stages to ensure, to put in place a long-term program of community engagement with each sector of the tourism industry. You know, whether this is accommodation, tours and activities and other areas, to make sure that in the longer run, visitor spending is channeled for the benefit of the local community. And like we said, this was always important, but this crisis, we believe, has presented a huge opportunity to be able to remind people that this is our long-term strategy and to help get everybody on the right track there. So then, in a broad summary, we think it's time to ask, and we think this presents us with a big opportunity for DMMOs to ask then what are their core strengths, and to try and make sure that they are most useful to their places in the best way they can. We've seen a lot of inspiring examples already from across Europe on how this is working. We know that we have a community here of people who are engaged, who care a huge amount for the places they work for. They have good contacts, and they often have authority and influence to work with as well. So we know that we're working through challenging times, but one of the reasons why we wanted to produce this checklist was to give confidence, because we know that we have an audience of people here who are well placed to support their communities and their industry back to a sustainable recovery. This is also then an opportunity, though, to ask which tasks can we pick up and which of those have probably been costing a bit too much time and money over the years, and this is an opportunity for us to leave some tasks behind. And also fundamentally to ask, and we know that many cities are already going through this, what are our ultimate goals through recovery? And that will leave us in a good place to hand over very shortly to our next speaker. So finally, just to remind you from our side, from TOPOSOPHY, we have a range of services which we have ready to go. That already we're helping to support destinations in these areas, whether that is through research and strategy advice, helping to understand consumer sentiment, engaging with residents, and also navigating through the policy side of this. And of course, you're very welcome to contact us, and I'll leave my contact details after this as well. And of course, this is in addition then to our broad range of services that we offer places throughout the year in any case. So obviously, we're very happy to talk to you further about those as well. So that's a thank you from me. I look forward to welcoming now, welcoming our speakers. And you have my email there, just obviously if you want to get in contact. Now, our next speaker is we're social distancing, so it's actually also in the same city as me, but on the other side of town. Good friend and colleague, Geert Udo from Amsterdam&Partners. So, Geert, goedemiddag.
Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me all?
Yep, I can hear you, yep.
Great.
Great.
Well,
Okay.
thank you so much. Welcome to everybody. It's awkward to be here in my hometown, Amsterdam, talking to you without seeing you, because the people that know me, I love interaction. I love having a clear conversation, but nevertheless, I'm very happy that I'm here at this moment. I was asked by ECM and in prolonging of this beautiful report of TOPOSOPHY to highlight not what we're doing actually today, but more our vision into the future. And the funny thing is, they actually also asked me beforehand to give a presentation in March in Graz, in a totally different world, of course, and the role of our organization was totally different. But when I started preparing this presentation for today, I actually started with the presentation I was supposed to give in March to see what are the things in the long term that really changed overnight, and what are the things that were actually still different. I keep it short. Peter, give me 10 minutes. So Peter, let's get started to the next slide, please.
Okay.
Yes, this one. Thank you. This is still our mission. This was our mission already when we launched it with our new name and strategy, that we work on the livability, attractiveness, and prosperity, sustainable. This is our mission. Of course, livability, like you saw in the TOPOSOPHY presentation already, nowadays is also very much fulfilled with health and security, but it's still about the livability. The same is for attractiveness and prosperity, and still we are aiming on a sustainable and inclusive metropolitan. This is still what we did before and what we're still doing, informing, inspiring, and engaging people. And like you saw in the previous slide, we do that for our residents and for our visitors and for our businesses. And of course, what we inform them about and how we inspire them is different now in Corona times, but it's still the same that we are doing as a DMMO. How we do it still by telling stories based on data and insight via online and print media. Of course, nowadays, unfortunately, not through service. Still telling my story through 10 at the right time. And of course, the message totally changed. We had to tell international visitors what was allowed and is not allowed. And we have to be very clear in that in the future as well. Borders will open up, other possibilities will come in the future, but not everything will be allowed. So telling the right story to the right person through the right channel at the right time stays very important, but also to our local community. This was the quote that we used actually in the time that we were talking about over-tourism. It's not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the most responsive to change. Because at that time, of course, we also were changing our strategy to work on this livable, prosperous, and attractive, sustainable, inclusive metropole. Nowadays, this is really still a very important one-liner for us, because also in this very uncertain time, it's about how responsive we and our industry and our community are to the change that we are experiencing right now. So the visitor economy is more than ever very, very important. We have to invest to opening up the city and to make sure that our visitors can come here and visit us in a healthy and in a safe way. And we also have to grasp the moment to make sure that this is not so prominent anymore, because these were the areas, red light district, where we had the problem of over-tourism. And nowadays in Corona times, you can see very clearly that all the other neighborhoods in Amsterdam are more lively when the residents are there. They show how beautiful the city center is, but also how dependent they are on tourism, not in the right way anymore. So we believe that all these areas in the city should have the rights of living, working, and visiting. So we have to make some changes in this area as well. Because as you can see in the next slide, this is the red light district today. Yes, next slide.
Yeah.
And the next slide.
Is that okay?
And these are just some pictures we took on the street. And what is very, very important is that it's quiet, it's clean, you see our history. And we believe, like I said, that there is an interest and need in cities for inhabitants, businesses, and visitors. It was always there and it will always be there if we manage it well. And sometimes they enforce each other, but sometimes if you put the residents in center, because like Peter also said, even more after this crisis, when visitor economy starts up, a lot of people would be happy to welcome visitors again. And some people nowadays realize how important their city is for them and maybe will be not so open for visitors. And we do not know which shift that will make, but we have to make sure that these residents stay in the middle. So what is important for us is that this is not possible anymore in areas where you have areas that are only used by businesses focused on visitors, like red light district. Because you saw in the days before Corona, but also now after Corona, that there is not the right balance, also not for the livability for locals, because normal shops disappear, you get a monoculture in shopping, etc. So we have to move together with City Hall and our partners, getting all these business that was focused on visiting, turning around so they also have added value for the residents again. Because if you, of course, manage to have an area and an industry and cultural organizations and shops and tourist attractions that are interesting for residents as well and add value for residents as well, then we think you build a much more sustainable economy. And also this question was in my other presentation, but it's very, very important still nowadays. And it's not asking what locals can do for visitors, but ask what the visitor economy can do for locals. Because if we make very clear to our City Hall, to all politicians, but also to the locals and the industry, what the added value is, for us may be very clear by creating jobs, investing in making money for the city government, but also their investment in our cultural institutions that are very important for the locals as well. Also, the variety of restaurants and bars we have that are financed also by visitors that locals profit from as well. So this question is still very relevant, and we're focusing again on this question, answering it, so we make sure in the future people see the win-win situation again. So what we do today, of course, I think every DMO does, but really, really important, stay in contact. Of course, with the employees at the office, it's not easy to work from home, and even especially when it takes longer, a lot of people are, well, let me say, have to find their energy. But it's very important to stay in contact. Of course, also with the partners. I'm having calls every day, and my whole office has to hear how they're doing, to see where we can help them, but also to take them along the side to our new sustainable economy, to also make them sure that they invest in the right things, so we do use this crisis as well. Same, of course, for government, local, regional, and national, and we're talking to locals. Like, what should we do to be the welcoming city where we're always with the negative impact of the. The other part we're doing right now is by our consumer platform, we guide and support, of course, partners and locals. So we have, like, I think a lot of the DMMOs, this platform for locals, how to support, but we also tell our stories internationally only to our friends and fellows that really brand the city, because we are in this unique situation where actually nobody talks about your city, because there is no social media, only the social media of the locals. So you can use this momentum by showing the world what the city is upon your opinion, what the beauty of it is, where you see the highlights, etc. So we really use this moment to build a reputation. So if visitor economy starts, more and more people know the high quality of culture, nature, architecture, and history we have, and that it's much, much more than only the red light district. We, of course, do the same for the business, for the whole convention market. We already have to tell now the stories that brand our city if it comes to health and safety. And last but not least, we have to keep the loyalty and the interaction very high. Because like you probably all have, the first few weeks, a lot of people were online and very interactive and having a high interaction on social media, but it's not opening up tomorrow. So we have to find inventive ways to keep the loyalty and the engagement on our social media and our website high. So if we open up, we're still in contact with the right customers. The building blocks that we're with our task force that, like I mentioned, are for the sustainable future visitor economy. And it's, you see on the top, it's inclusive workforce. We have to make sure that more locals and more people in our area profit from the visitor economy in the future, and not only the big boys, but also the locals. We have a new waste plan we're developing to make sure that the streets stay as clean as they are now in this weird Corona time. And we are investing in sustainable mobility and, of course, sustainable consumption, so we do not get the burden back. So nowadays, we select very much in the data and insight, who is that ideal visitor? If it comes to locals, if it comes national or international business or leisure, and what are the scenarios? I mean, we have to make very, very 3 steps to invite people in. First of all, are they allowed? Are the boundaries open? What is the legislation of national and international governments? But also, are they willing? Do they feel safe and trusted to travel again? And third, can they? And can is because, do they have the money still? Because there will be a lot of unemployment, but also can they because there is connection? Are there airplanes, etc.? So these are a few of the small issues that we're pointing on to look in the future, besides being in contact with everybody now. Be prepared to tell the right story at the right time to the right person via the right channel. Thank you so much.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Geert. Very much appreciated. This is actually, we're pleased to be joined then by our colleague from Hamburg. Let me just see if Kai, if you're able to connect and put your microphone and camera on, and we'll join you. We're interested to know a little bit more about industry engagement and how Hamburg has been doing this, because as Geert said, the conversation with industry is particularly important. I'll ask Geert if it's okay if you switch the camera off, and then we'll go to Kai here. Okay. So Kai, I'll leave it to you. We're very interested to hear about this new platform initiative in Hamburg that you've set up. So yeah, please take it away.
Yes, thank you very much, Peter. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, I can,
okay,
yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, first, thank you very much for the opportunity to present our exchange platform. Wir stehen zusammen, that means we stay together in Hamburg. And yeah, I just want to show you what we did. At the beginning, Hamburg was, like all the other great cities, also hit by the coronavirus, and this resulted in a hard and rapid lockdown. and no one can say exactly how long the current situation will last. So for the tourism industry in Hamburg, the current situation obviously is very horrible. And the uncertainty among our service providers is increasing and is already high and was high from the beginning due to the rapid lockdown. And of course, just 1 second. Okay, here we go. It's a dynamic situation and it's still floating state and it's still fueled by information gaps. So nobody has really information to rely on. And so we very early decided that we need a platform that gives security and that improves the exchange in the industry. And it enables to help for self-help and sharing best practices. And our objective was that we wanted to be very quick with that, and that we wanted it to be easy to use and have very low barriers. In Germany, we have the Stammtisch. This is where people meet mainly in pubs and drink beer and talk about current affairs and private and business. And that was our aim, to have this low level, low barrier exchanged in the industry. And it may not look as cozy like this picture. It's a little bit more technical, as you can see here. The forum, we stand together and able to exchange, and helps the people to learn from each other, offering help and support in these difficult times. We know that the industry already discusses itself within a few smaller groups, and that there is already an exchange of ideas there. With the forum, we have significantly expanded this cosmos, and it has become clearly visible. The platform for the entire industry together once again achieves a lot, and that the findings are relevant and interesting for a larger number of players in Hamburg. The categories we have chosen for the forum range from the topics: general discussions of the current situation, reducing costs, legal assistance, new ideas and initiatives, and organization and motivation in the home office. So we have a strict focus towards our suppliers in Hamburg. And of course, one other big part was to show the latest information from the politics, from the city, to have transparency about the rules and regulations we have to face actually. This is an example where we started with first. We worked together with the industry to establish a status quo within a very short time, to show which hotels are still open or which hotels are closed in the city. And as we can see, I will show you later, that was is one category which was demanded very, very much. And we shared this information on different websites, on the Hamburg Tourism and in the Hamburg Convention Bureau, of course. Yeah, the further advantage that we have here is that we reduced costs within Hamburg, because we have various topics on one forum. This allows us clearly to orientate our work towards a target group of high performers. We have, as you can imagine, just 1 second. At the beginning, with the forum, we have reached nearly 500 tourism service providers in Hamburg in a very short time. From the very beginning, we have given a lot of input, moderated, and tried to find solutions for questions and to arrange contact persons. But we also had to realize that it behaves like other social networks and forums. We have a lot of readers. The interest in consuming information is still there, but there's relatively little action from the users. As always in such networks, there are very active users, but then of course also a large part of fellow readers only. The most clicked threads are the ones that either invite you to join or have an exciting newsworthiness. The top 4 are the following: the overview of the hotel availability in Hamburg, a constantly updated podcast listening with voices on the situation, partly with voices from the Hamburg tourism industry, an appeal for the video campaign You're Missing, in which hotels could participate in a video with their houses, and explanatory thread that shows how to get emergency aid from the public subsidies. The resources we used for this project, as I said in the beginning, we wanted to be very quick with it. And so and of course, using as less resources as possible. So we only used the resources we have in-house. We started with what we had a team of 4 people, plus a very strong and helpful IT support, which worked on the project, and they came from the general communication and from our partner department. From the first scratch to the go live, we had only used 5 days, and we didn't use any budget at all because, as I said before, we used all the competencies we had in-house, and the software we used for this forum is free of costs. So yeah. With this focus towards Hamburg and the suppliers in Hamburg, we think it helps us meeting the challenges for us as a DMMO in Hamburg in this time and for the future. Of course, the competition of the destinations for attention will be like never before. Everyone is at zero with the tourism, but we need, of course, the tourism in our cities. Many service providers need the network and expertise, for example, the market knowledge, the research data, from us as a company. And the promotion of the tourism is more urgent than ever before in the times after Corona. The same applies on the need for resources. Hamburg has to get back on the map as quickly as possible. That's our aim for the recovery phase. And for many partners on service providers, the cooperation with the DMMO is economically necessary and not a goodwill as it is times in very good performing tourism. So the next step for us is that we will transform the forum to a B2B platform. After the Corona crisis, our city must look to the future. So we want to transform this self-help platform towards a service platform from us as a DMO for the local industry to support the local businesses after the Corona crisis. And with this platform we are currently working on, the suppliers will find inspiration for further training opportunities in the area of academy. We have online seminars and webinars and things like that. We have, of course, information and data there about tourism in general, the target markets in the city of Hamburg. We will have some content in the area of inspiration and what content the suppliers can use for their own campaigns, and they will find further participation opportunities for their marketing activities under the roof of the brand Hamburg. So we try to close preparing for the next step, for the recovery step, by transforming the users of the forum into the new platform for us.
Brilliant. Wow, thank you very much indeed, Kai. And I think you got some. This seems like a very good place to brought the presentation to. I think you have a final few words for us.
Yeah, I think that's the final few words. We think if everybody is performing very good, there's no time to look what can be done better. So maybe the crisis now, as the colleagues in Amsterdam do, maybe it's time to look which is the new direction, and so it's the best time for new beginnings is now in the crisis, and not when everything's running well.
Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed, Kai. I have to say, from our side, we're really impressed at how, with using your own resources, you've managed to set up something so quickly, which seems to be already meeting the needs of the business community now, and obviously has a very clear use for the next stages of this as well. So congratulations, and thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask then Mateo, who's going to join us from Barcelona, and we are going to go back and share my screen and bring you back.
Yes. Hello, Peter.
Mateo, buona tarda. Thank you very much for joining. We're just going to make a mention that with your presentation, we're just going to go over past 4 o'clock for a few minutes, if that's okay. We hope that people will still be able to stay with us, as many as possible, because we're very interested to hear what you have to say. On the subject of new beginnings then, and also engaging with a new audience, we're very interested to hear what has been happening recently in Barcelona and how you've been supporting the community and the industry. So yeah, please take it away.
Well, thank you, Peter. As Barcelona always recovers after any kind of situation, I would like to say thank you so much to the European Cities Marketing just in order to give me the opportunity to share, which is a small radiography about what is going to happen in Barcelona at this time. I'm totally agree about you though, when before she said that it's quite complicated to prepare a presentation when you are having changes every 5 minutes. Let me just give you a small radiography of what's happening in the city. First, this afternoon, I would like to present the key projects of the City Council of Barcelona as a future strategy, and also some current measures as a tourism board to support the tourism industry. But first, I would like to just give you an idea in Spain. We have, for example, country phases. These country phases as 4, and this will happen for 8 weeks. So if I'm not wrong, we will appear at the end like the stage that Peter Jordan a few minutes ago tell us about the recovery. That will be in June. As you could see, we have 4 phases. The first one, the preparation. That's where we are now. Phase 0, preparation for de-escalation. We will follow in 15 days with initial phase, partial start of certain activities. Like, for example, larger shopping centers will be remain closed, or they will be highly recommended to use the face mask. As a second phase, the intermediate opening of premises with limited capacity will be the third phase that we will have right now, where restaurant interiors will be permitted to carry out table service, and cultural events will less than 50 people. The phase third, advance, that will be focused in the flexibility that mobility generates. So this one, what is happening at this moment in our country. Let's see, before in some other presentations, everyone was talking about how we need to work with the public institutions. Right now, more than ever, we need to be very close working with our public institutions. And here I'm taking an example like what is going on as a key project, the City Council of Barcelona. The first one important is the tourist tax. The increase in the rate of municipal traffic, it was postponed until Christmas. And also the council promote an establishment of 3 tourism recovery campaigns. The first one, the local campaign. A local campaign in a new stage. Why? Because in our human opinion, the challenge will be how to attract the citizens also as the visitors. Why? Because, well, some time ago, I mean, our promotion was only just for long haul market distance and also as well for the national market. But never we were thinking about just as a promote to our neighbors. What is going to happen in the neighbors upstairs of my house? So I don't have any kind of information, and never I was really close that we will need it right now. For that, the lead by the City Council, in which each sector will contribute its proposals, because it's quite important for the first phase, the collaboration of all the units that will be essential. A second campaign would be as a national, scheduled for June, July start. And this one, we will continue in a third campaign, focused in the European markets, and extend it also for the international campaign, but this one was supposed to be and scheduled for 2021. The City Council created impacts in the all economic sectors. Coordination is with all the councillors and the cabinet heads, and so also the press communication from the city council and also for the city of Barcelona is the mobility. Within minimum pedestrian priorities, squares and boulevards, and within sidewalks. Even today, they start already. From 1st of May, 18.5 kilometers of side streets are reserved for pedestrians from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and a total of 70 parks reopened. Could you imagine? In Barcelona, we have the great opportunity to having a great park, the National Park of Collserola, just in our city. So this one is talking about 8,000 hectares of extension, which is a really huge area for our local residents. But now we are focused. We know already what is going on in the city council, but we are going to focus what is doing the tourism board of Barcelona. First, the first campaign that we focused, it was Barcelona Visits You, a new campaign to remind the city of its visitors. Online campaign with the aim of disseminating and lending visibility to the virtual offer and also throughout the cultural sector. This in order to post it on social networks during the lockdown. We have more than 475 users and have made themselves available to all the businesses in the sector so they can publish, disseminate, and so on. We transform our hashtag that was hashtag Visit Barcelona to hashtag Barcelona Visits You, because we understand that Barcelona went to their apartments and went to their houses and visit all the locals. But also as well, the solidarity enters in our measures. For example, you have here another example, the donation to the hospital clinic through the solidarity, hashtag St. George 2020 Solidarity Rose. St. Jordi, as you know, is one of our most important dates during the year, is when they opens another window around love and books. This year, the date was moved from April to July 23rd. But just in order to mark this year, St. Jordi will launch a solidarity campaign that invites social network users to download a solidarity rose for €1 and send it to a loved one. The fundraisers have been donated in full to the hospital just to help in its fight against the coronavirus. This initiative is also a way to show our commitment, the commitment of the tourism board, with not stopping promoting culture and showing our solidarity with health and medical service that they make a great effort during these days. But more measures from the tourism board, of course, to provide to our customers with the useful information from the COVID. We are tracking all information about the coronavirus that affects and also their effects through our visitbarcelona.com, recommendations of the World Health Organization and the Department of Health, tourism service call center updated information about air traffic, also indications to the affected consulates, hotels available for tourists during the confinement period, and also the legal advice and financial support that was really so appreciated by our members and the companies members of the tourism board in this period. This one also, following the current measures that we took, I mean, we prepared a learning plan for members. Why? Because for us, the members of the tourism board are quite important, and they will be companies who they will transform after COVID. So we don't know exactly our scenario. A lot of companies, maybe they will close. Some other ones, they are restored and make a new challenge in their companies. And some other news actors will appear. That's the reason that we prepare useful information to mitigate the effects of the actual situation and schedule, for example, all these type of webinars with a focus for our members that covers practices about what is going to happen in the world in matters of tourism. Designed to keep up date travel agents, venues, hotels, DMCs, and other tourists, statement the latest events in the sector, and also as well the knowledge that they needed from some other markets, because we don't forget it that this one, okay, we are just putting a focus on the local citizens and the local situation, but this one we will be increasing, like for example, national and then of course international. And we believe that's very important. Don't leave international markets without promotion. So new local markets, the Great Barcelona, metropolitan area and regions. I was talking about the national park just next door to our city. And also as well, more support from our Chamber of Commerce in terms of digital actions. They are super active just in order to help us, and also just in order to help us with the markets and in the way of international. Digital and marketing communication transformation will be our challenge. As Goethe said, a new way of working, home office and telecommuting is really our new life. We believe that it will be 50-50, because if not, I can't believe it how many hours we will expect it to work right now. And of course, the restructure and reorganization of the 2020 actions, virtual events and digital content, it will be this as a normal life. Talk with new players. We were talking about that we need information about these locals. For example, well, helping by Google, Facebook, some of the companies that never we were thinking about tourism board to be in touch with them is in order to obtain information about our consumers. Please, right now, I think that is the moment. And of course, at the end, health and safety will now be part of our DNA.
Wow, Matteo, that was a very brilliant summary in such a short time. I'll leave you just to say a final few words there.
So I don't know if anyone has a direct question or...
Yeah, we've been collecting questions, and we're going to give them to the panelists just after this, because we've had so much content in today. We've actually run a little bit over time. I just wanted to say from our side, moltes gracias, and thank you very much for joining us. There's some really interesting lessons in there about how you've covered so many areas there, from placemaking through to engaging with the local industry, to engaging with local consumers as well. It's really reassuring from our side to see that, you know, there's so many areas covered, and we hope that your example and the checklist has been useful for our members there and for the ECM community. So I think we will be bringing then bringing this afternoon's presentation to a close. From our side, I just want to wish an enormous thank you to all of our panelists, Kai Dietrich and Matteo Asensio and Geert Udo, for joining us, and for ECM for hosting this. We do hope it's been useful for everybody, and we'll make sure that the recording is available. Apologies to those of you who had some of the poor connection issues. Apologies for that, but we do hope that this has been a useful session for you. And on behalf of European Cities Marketing and TOPOSOPHY, we'd like to thank you for joining us, and we look forward to you joining us again soon. So thank you very much, and good afternoon.